Hi, I'm Jay Munro, Vice President of Marketing at WithYouWithMe. We're an award-winning social impact software and technology company focused on solving underemployment and building the technology workforce of the future by offering free training to candidates and your employees in some of the most in-demand technology fields. For employers and talent acquisition specialists, we enable direct access to untapped pools of diverse and underrepresented talent such as veterans, military spouses, Indigenous, gender diverse, and neurodivergent individuals. Our software can be used for the assessment of aptitude, skills, and potential of both your internal and external talent. So of course that includes hiring and internal talent mobility. Today, I'm sharing a short chat that I held with one of our own success stories, Scarlett McClure. Scarlett is a military spouse, a technologist, and has built a hugely successful career and is currently our very own CTO. Scarlett joined our business without the relevant experience, but through our software and testing, demonstrated the aptitude to not only be a successful engineer, but to have the potential to move and develop internally into the senior leadership position that she holds today. And then we'll have Charlie, one of our account managers, follow with a short demonstration of our software, WithYouWithMe potential. So Scarlett, can you tell us a bit about being a military spouse?
Sure. So I've been a military spouse for around 8 years now. My husband's been in the Army for almost 10. And during that time, we've moved 6 times in 8 years, 4 different states. We've had 2 children and we're all born in different states now. So it's been a real whirlwind. But I've certainly lived in places that I possibly never would have even visited if I wasn't a military spouse. So right now I'm talking to you from Townsville, and we'll actually move in 9 days back down to Canberra, where I'm originally from. But we've done sort of a full lap. So we've been Adelaide, Wodonga, Townsville, Canberra, and it's been what you make of it.
I guess the big question is, you mentioned careers, but moving around all the time, you wouldn't have that much control over your career, you'd expect.
Very little. Yeah, I've been really fortunate to be in a tech career, and it's one of the reasons I'm so passionate about bringing other military spouses along into tech careers as well. Certainly I'm not shy about saying that that's my plan, to bring as many military spouses into tech as possible, because I've had the benefit of being able to work remotely for quite a long time now, but that's not a benefit that many military spouses have. So it's not unusual to find somebody who's got a master's degree or someone who's really highly skilled professional working in retail or hospitality, because that's simply what's going in the region that they're in. And I'll be honest, the Army doesn't pick the locations for career opportunities or, you know, to be the most fun place to live. So you might end up somewhere like, you know, even the Pilbara region in WA, or you might end up in Darwin. And, you know, the industries can be quite limited in some places. So it can be really difficult for a lot of people.
And before you joined WithYouWithMe, what were you doing yourself?
So I had taken a couple of years out of full-time work to have kids, and I had gone back into doing a little bit of work in security consulting, which I had reskilled in while I was off having kids. But prior to that, I was a software contractor. So I was lucky enough to be able to take my job around the country with me during that time.
Okay. And was it difficult for you to always find work, or was it a bit hit and miss?
It was difficult. So the first place we moved to was Adelaide, which had quite a few opportunities for software developers, but we followed that up with Wodonga, which had a total of 1 software development job available in the whole region, which was a bit difficult. So during that time, I didn't work for a while, and then I had another baby there. But when I did decide to work in Wodonga, I actually worked remotely because there wasn't anything available in that region. So again, I was really fortunate to have a career that was, you know, pre-COVID, I was able to still do that remotely.
And does it affect you in terms of well-being and mental health, moving to new locations and having issues or challenges finding work? Do you feel that for military spouses, there is that component?
Hugely. Yeah, I would say that the biggest impact of moving, particularly for me in mental health, was loneliness. And that's something I hear echoed a lot. So um, with the exception of Wodonga, everywhere we've moved to, I've never even visited the place before. And quite often it's the case that you'll move, you'll get settled in, and then quite quickly your other half will be on a deployment or on a training course. So for example, when we moved to Adelaide, we moved in and a week later, my husband was gone for 3 months and I had not met a single person who lived in Adelaide ever. So you're constantly dropped in the deep end of, go find some new social connections, or, go find yourself in a career in a place where you have no social connections, which is often so important. Yeah.
And then you had a couple of kids, started looking for some work, and tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so I've got 2 beautiful kids. I've got Sophie and Jake. Sophie's 3 and Jake's 2. And when Jake was 6 weeks old, I took him up to Canberra with me because I had decided that, I had reskilled in cyber while I was pregnant with Jake, and I had done some consulting and decided this is for me. So off I went to a cybersecurity boot camp for people who are entrepreneurial, such as myself, to learn how to do a startup. And Jake, being 6 or 7 weeks old then, was a bit too young to be left with grandparents or something like that. So he just came along with me for the whole week.
Okay.
Yeah. I was lucky to have a really accommodating group of people who they actually bought a change table just so I could attend the course. And that really gave me sort of the startup bug. I don't think I'll ever be able to go back to sort of a highly mature corporate sort of organization. But when Jake was 8 weeks old, so like a week after that, we actually moved 2,500 kilometers north to Townsville. So stir things up again, and that's where I started looking for work and came across WithYouWithMe.
Okay, and then what happened then? How did you apply to WithYouWithMe? Tell us a bit about that journey.
Yeah, so I had heard about the company because obviously with my husband being a serving member, he actually processes a lot of people's discharges. So that's a resource that he knew was available for people who were leaving the military. And I had heard that it was also available for military families. So I actually jumped on to have a look at what job listings might be available, not actually looking to work out WithYouWithMe, but being a fairly pedantic software developer myself, I actually found a few bugs on the platform while I was having a look around for jobs, and I emailed those directly to the CEO, Tom, and we talked for a little while, and he sort of said, oh, we're looking for software developers, so are you interested in having a chat? And that's how I landed an interview.
Okay, and I'm assuming you came onto the platform, did the aptitude testing, and went through the typical process?
Yeah, so actually I hadn't done it ahead of talking to Tom because I had just been looking at the listings, but upon hearing a bit more about the company and getting involved in the recruitment process, the first step was and still is to jump on and do the aptitude testing. And so I did that, and I was quite surprised by some of the results because I've never done a personality test before.
Okay.
It's really interesting.
And so you did that testing, you joined the organization, and then what happened from there? Because you're now the CTO, so that's quite a journey. So, I mean, you didn't join and automatically just start off as CTO, I'm assuming.
No, there's a much longer recruitment process for this kinds of things. Actually, what happened was I ended up joining the company as a software development instructor because I was really looking to work more with people. Obviously, with my background in software and security, I've worked a lot with the technology side of things, which I love, and I really live and breathe that kind of, logic and how things go together and building new things. But I thought I'd try and teach some other people because, as you know, that's something I'm really passionate about, is giving other people the opportunities that I've had. And I've done a lot of work in the past, sort of tutoring young women who are getting into STEM and working with women's shelters and sort of providing tech education in those kinds of scenarios. So I was really excited for this opportunity. And I was a software development instructor in the company for a couple of months. But actually, I could see really quickly that there was a need for somebody to step up and take responsibility on the cybersecurity side of the organization as we grew, particularly with our work in government. So very quickly, I sort of sort of just made my way into that responsibility, because I'm the kind of person, when I see something that needs some attention, I'll go ahead and do it. So I wrapped up the course I was developing, and I moved quickly over into the engineering side of the house, to start building up our security posture and to do some work with our biggest client, the Australian Army. And that sort of grew and grew in that responsibility. And quickly I was running a program for the Army Data Hub, which was really successful, happily. And so when the opportunity came up to run what we call System 2, which is our engineering and product organization, which actually also encompasses training and security, which I'd already worked in, I was a really good fit for the role, because I've got experience across sort of every part of that spectrum of work that we do in System 2. So I actually worked in product in the meantime as well, as part of my work with Army. So I was feeling really confident to put my hand up and say, hey, there's a need for somebody to fill this role. I've got experience across these areas. I love this organization and what it stands for. And I took a bit of a risk and said I'd do it. And here we are.
And of course, we look at the testing results as well and can see the potential aptitude and skills that you have, and that you would be a good fit in the role. And of course, you're performing as well. We can see that. You're doing a great job.
Oh, thanks, Jay. Yeah, that played a really big part in sort of the point A to point B of that journey. Was that really early on, through that interview process, having done the aptitude testing, we could see that I've got quite a high aptitude, particularly in areas related to digital, which is really beneficial in my role. But the biggest thing actually was Tom, the CEO, Tom. He really saw leadership potential in me, which was untapped. So in the past, I've led some small teams in software, but I'd never had, organizational leadership experience like what I do now, where I lead a team that's just ticked over 70, an international team. So it's really a true story of practicing what we preach, because that's a skill that has really been developed in me over the last 18 months, those leadership abilities that were there, but they were unrealized. So it's really a story of how, when there's somebody who comes into your organization who's got the potential to do great things, you don't necessarily need to wait 20 years of experience to start to capitalize on that potential that's within an organization. If you've got sort of the data to back you up, so like the testing that we do, you've got a much better read on where that potential sits, and you can start to give people challenging activities and see if they can rise to that occasion. And if they can, why not let them keep going until they've reached their potential?
And I think that's a good point as well. And it ties into, all the opportunity and possibility that can be offered to military spouses and veterans and neurodivergent candidates who are underrepresented and underemployed. And it's one of the reasons why we should really be moving away from resumes and all these antiquated ways that recruitment is done, and be looking at skills and potential rather than experience, really. So Scarlett, it's been really fantastic. Thank you for sharing your story. And we will have Charlie do a demo of potential as well.
Wonderful. Thanks, Jay.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining today. My name is Charlie Fuller. I'm one of the account executives here at WithYouWithMe, and super excited to be showing you the power of potential. So this is our platform potential. This is what our job seekers would see on the side of the platform, as well as people from underrepresented community groups, such as neurodiverse, Indigenous, women in tech, veterans, military spouses, and Afghani refugees. So essentially, we want to make it as simple as possible for them to look at tech training, as well as going into a job post the platform. So essentially what we do is we provide them a really seamless process of confirming what describes them best on the platform, as well as their display name and all other personal details on the platform, and the reason for why they're looking at signing up for With You With Me. What I will say is the testing is sort of our secret sauce. We have a 42-minute psychometric and aptitude test, which looks at what you could be great at and discovers your propensity to learn particular skills based on the Sophia framework. And the Sophia framework is particularly important for us because we look at what are the skills and aptitudes and then match them to a job. And why that's important is it's a massive thing for people who've never had a job before or who've never considered a technology role, in ensuring that there's a tangible outcome once we have tested them, trained them, and then looked at potentially looking at a career. So we look at culture fit, psychometric assessment, aptitude, learning style, and career matches. And at WithYouWithMe, we've taken the extended DISC model and created our own archetypes. So we have a creative, doer, and a translator. And we're able to match teams to specific organizations. And this is super powerful, particularly when we think about large-scale internal talent mobility, as well as looking at deploying super teams into projects, which we find is really successful. We can actually show people what their top career matches are. Showing people what they can do is super powerful as it opens up a broader conversation and is fantastic for internal talent mobility as well as career development. And I think what we know is there is a large opportunity for reshuffling within organizations and also fostering a more collaborative environment and cross-line of business collaboration. So that's the employee side. I'm going to take you to the manager side. This is where we can really start to make your life a lot easier as a hiring manager, a recruiter, a HR director, or someone who is looking at providing the business or hiring net new talent into the organization. Let's say, for example, I'm looking for a cybersecurity analyst in my role. The power of potential within sort of 2 to 3 to 5 seconds gives you an active pool of talent on the database, both internally and externally, and shows you candidates who are matched to that specific job. Why is that important? Because it shows you someone who could be great at the job, gives you a really nice little bio, and it shows you the competencies matched with the job, as well as aptitude strengths, personality strengths as well. You can also see their testing, and it's super important, particularly from a testing point of view. If you look at culture fit and what type of archetype they are they a doer? You're probably going to need someone in that role who is a doer. And then you can also look at particular aptitudes and learning styles. So super powerful. Let's say we want to have a look at what they've done in the past, and we can have a look at their career timeline. But let's say I don't want a cybersecurity analyst. I want a business analyst. WithYouWithMe's potential, within a matter of seconds, we'll update the database and take from a different source of candidates, both internally and externally, and look at the people who are matched to the job based on their aptitudes and their testing. What this does, it opens up diversity of thought in the hiring process and is also an ethical and sustainable approach to hiring people within your organization. You're probably thinking, what's in it for me as a hiring manager? Well, if you are looking at particular internal or external talent pipelines, or you're looking at hiring Indigenous or neurodiverse candidates within your business, we make it really easy for you to find those people within your organization, both internally and externally. We can take you through the whole hiring process, all the way from expressions of interest to shortlisting the candidate, interviewing them, and then all the way through to ready to hire, which is fantastic, particularly as a hiring manager. You want it to be simple and easy for people to get a job within your organization, and we want to make that exactly the possibility.
So there we have it, a very brief overview and introduction to our software, WithYouWithMe Potential. I encourage you to connect with us and meet with one of our account managers to learn more about how we can help you to reach more diverse and untapped talent, unlock hidden talent in your organization, and start building the technology workforce of the future. Thank you.